Hello and welcome to Boosting You, the ultimate wellness platform. And I'm Dr. Sue Peacock.
And I'm Shirley McLean. And our boost of self care today is going to be all about understanding those emotional triggers. It's something that is so useful to us all. So, when we can become consciously aware of them and understand them, it allows us to be aware, like the inner chatter that we did a few weeks ago, becoming aware of them. And then we can go through how to deal with them in ways that are more advantageous to us. Sometimes those emotional triggers just appear out of nowhere. And it's such a big thing that people suffer with. And, there's no need to suffer. When we can identify, allow, and process these emotions, after all, we are emotional beings having this experience.
Absolutely. It's really fascinating, isn't it? How these triggers kind of operate beneath that conscious awareness, isn't it? But they're there like almost, silent currents moving deep below the surface, aren't they? And even as you're sitting there, beginning to reflect on this, I wonder if you've noticed how people can start to sense these currents when they just simply sort of slow down at their internal rhythm.
Yeah, that's exactly right. When someone allows themselves to pause and breathe and experience what they're experiencing, they naturally begin to access a different quality of awareness, that kind of awareness that lets them observe rather than react.
Yeah, true. I find it helpful sometimes to guide my clients to, to recall maybe a triggering situation, but to view it as if they're kind of watching on a screen. And
Mm.
as they do this, they may sort of notice those certain sensations in their body that actually started before that emotional flood.
Yeah, and as they continue watching that internal movie, they can begin to adjust the controls, can't they? Perhaps making the image smaller or dimming the brightness or even muting the sound, discovering how these adjustments change their relationship to the experience.
Yeah. And what's particularly powerful is when they identify that earliest warning signal. That is it, the first hint of tightness in their chest, or that slight change in their breathing, because that's really key, because that becomes their window of opportunity.
Yeah, and isn't it interesting how once they recognize that window, they can insert a new choice exactly at that moment, a choice that might be just as simple as taking a breath or silencing that, naming what's happening.
Yeah, absolutely. And I found that having clients sort of create that physical anchor can be really transformative. Sometimes just as simple as pressing the thumb and the finger together while
Mm.
experiencing that state of sort of calm curiosity.
Yeah. And with these practices, this anchor, it comes stronger, doesn't it? Allowing them because we can keep on using it and really anchor that resource in and instantly access that resourceful state precisely when they need it the most.
And what's really fascinating, isn't it, is how quickly the unconscious mind begins to recognize those patterns, that the very triggers that once sort of hijacked their emotional state can now become signals for empowerment.
Yeah, so it's like that trigger becomes a doorway instead of a trap, and as they step through that doorway again and again, they discover a growing sense of choice and possibilities.
Absolutely. And speaking of possibilities, I believe the most sort of powerful action step almost is to have them practice a daily trigger scan.
So, would you explain how you guide them through that?
Yeah. So what we do then is I ask them to set aside just 5 minutes each evening to kind of review the day, noticing any moments where they felt emotionally sort of activated. And for each moment, they simply observe it with curiosity, asking what was happening just before I felt this way. What was that very first signal in my body, and what might have been a different response.
Yeah, and as they practice that scan like day after day, their unconscious mind naturally begins to flag these moments in real time, creating that crucial space between that stimulus and that response.
Yeah, and in that space lies freedom.
Yeah. So as a recap, daily action trigger scan. So for this, just take 5 minutes each evening to review your day, identify moments when you felt emotionally triggered. So for instance, observe without judgment what was happening just before you felt triggered. Notice the earliest physical sensation that signaled the emotional response. Where do you feel it in your body? What's going on? And then imagine how you might respond differently the next time. And then practice your physical anchor, pressing that thumb and finger together, or sometimes people like a pinky, don't they, as well, as choose which one works for you, while visualizing that, that new response as well of what we want. And if we do this for 21 days, allowing your unconscious mind to develop that new pattern of awareness and choice. There's so many techniques. It's for anyone at home just to, any of you lot, just to use the ones that might work for you.
Yeah, absolutely. There's just so many to choose from, isn't there? And we're going to share a few for many things. So if you like the sound of these things, give them a go. It's all about expanding your awareness and having the tools and techniques to manage your self-care a bit better.
Absolutely. And I think creating that space that you mentioned earlier, is essential. Maybe on one of our booths, we can cover how an emotion only takes 90 seconds to work its way through the body.
That would be an amazing boost, wouldn't it? We'll save that then. We'll put that on the burner, as they say. And until next time, it's bye from me.
And it's bye from me.